I'm here with Steve Lacy of Academy Records and Chris Voorhees in the Collaborate exhibition in Heron, which is just set to open tonight. We're standing in front of stacks of Mandarax, which is a newspaper that they've created. And you have collaborated with citizens of Indianapolis to examine locations of choice in their own systematic process in creating this newspaper. Can you talk a little bit more about that, gentlemen?
Yeah, we asked a lot of the students here and a couple of folks we knew in town to find some way to document their immediate surroundings and to look for something that was interesting or meaningful or that they had a question about in some way. And then we sort of went about the same sort of theoretical research, thinking about how people kind of move through space and how technology shifts the use of space. And then all that was, compiled into this newspaper.
You happy with how it turned out?
Yeah, it turned out really good, I think. You want to add to that at all?
Well, I think one of the reasons we were attracted to this newspaper as an end product was it relates to the kind of other parts of the exhibition. Like the newspaper is kind of a vanishing media form. In a lot of ways it's kind of becoming outdated by technology. Most people read newspaper news on the internet now versus, I guess you'd say newspapers closing would be a topic that's related to this. And also kind of this grassroots way of this size newspaper is typically like a neighborhood kind of bulletin, like little newspaper to show you what's going on in your neighborhood. That's kind of like, those two references kind of fit with this I guess it's an object.
Yeah. So yeah, just the tactile, the printed aspect of this I think was really important. That it's something that you pick up and you have to flip through and you have to spend time with, and you don't scroll down and there's no audio files or anything like that.
And it doesn't exist on the internet at all. This is just...
Yeah, there's no internet example.
There's no CD-ROM.
Yeah, I mean, there's some ownership or responsibility, It's like the difference between an album, where you have album art, and you spend time and you look at the album art and you look at the lyrics, and you can watch the needle on the album go around and around, whereas a CD, it's smaller, sometimes just a photograph, but then you put the CD in this black box and miraculously this music comes out of these speakers. So there's, this real analog relationship that I think we wanted to push, because that's what we were asking people to do, is how do you physically relate to the city around you?
Very interesting. Let's talk a little bit about the other parts of the installation.
Sure.
So last time we talked to you, Chris, we were working on this part, which is the image of a mall. And how do you feel like it's come out?
I think it came out really... It's ethereal, which is, I like it like that. It's this was kind of the first time we've ever done a drawing like this. I'd done these other drawings before we had done these wall drawings, so to see how it would translate into a large wall drawing after I've been working on paper, because I knew how that would look, but to blow it up this size, I knew it would be kind of pixelated and really ghostly looking, which fits well with the topic of dissolving culture and objects and architecture. And this image is specifically Indianapolis mall. It's an Eastgate consumer mall. So I think there's some connection to like the outside world through that. It's not, but it's also like generic enough that it could be anywhere, because this is kind of happening everywhere. I don't know, I probably have some sort of necessity that, out of the way people go through the world and buy things, that this architecture doesn't have to exist anymore. And it's also
still there.
It's still there.
Can't get rid of it.
And that's like what we're left with, and that's what kind of corrupts I wouldn't say corrupts, but influences our perception of the place we live in. If it's like a lot of like abandonedness and blight, then maybe your sensibilities become a little more soured, or you get a little more hard edge. Unless you lived in a place with, or like the opposite would be like some place that's really well designed, or laid out where the urban space doesn't have a lot of room for, like New York City. It doesn't have this kind of problem because it's packed already. It's laid out to the point of
there's like enough space here for things to be taken for granted.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so this has been empty for I don't even know how long, 10 years, 15 years, maybe.
Yeah.
And it's going to cost too much money to tear it down. I mean, who knows? Maybe they're going to put in something next year. Who knows?
But I guess what we just heard, like, that's being used now as a computer dump for e-waste. Like, businesses go there and dump their computers, and it's like this landfill with architecture still around it. So
this certainly adds another layer to this choice.
Yeah, but these images kind of tie together with the Native American. Without going too much into specifics of why that image was chosen, you could come up with a good question about how we use land.
Well, things just getting wiped out through technology, through advancement. Things have always sort of moved west. I mean, that notion of things moving westward has always been towards the advancement of culture and society. Mm-hmm. And so when we come over and we sort of wipe the slate clean and start over.
And then we put this here.
And then we put that there.
And we don't really think about it too hard.
Yeah, I mean, something will always get replaced with something else. So that's not a very astute statement, but
I think what we're also on is we're not really. This is a critical take on a lot of stuff, but we're not really critical in a negative way. We're just kind of observing. This is our investigation or examination, just putting all these things together, saying these are the things that we can see that are affected by globalization or over communication, communication technology, just explosion. Coming into the other images, this might be an image where things started to dissolve in the 80s with desktop publishing in the house.
It's a little hard to see in the movie, but it's an image of a typewriter.
It's an image of a dot matrix printer.
Dot matrix printer, excuse me.
Yeah, so seeing that go into the realm of home publishing, people doing zines, and that relates to, I guess, some other kind of areas of culture that were kind of grassrooty, kind of printing press.
Well, it also relates to people doing their own newspapers, which helped to put those out of business.
Exactly.
Printing companies.
So you got independent presses, which were kind of vital to some sorts of music cultures in the 70s and 80s. That's how they unified or promoted their bands, was through that kind of printing technology. So that ties into this other image over here of this thing called the Crimson Ghost.
Does that show up on the screen?
It does.
Yeah, the Crimson Ghost was this serial from the 1930s and 40s. I don't know if he was a good guy or a bad guy.
He was kind of I guess in the modern day sense, he's like Dexter.
The anti-hero.
Yeah, he was kind of killing bad people, but he enjoyed it.
An image of fear.
Yeah.
Going to kill the bad
He
people.
kind of worked with the cops.
Yeah.
In episodes I've seen, he was working with the police force. This guy in a hooded thing with a skull. His mouth didn't move.
Yeah, I'll go down there and get this guy.
But there's some really good analogies of the Crimson Ghost, and then tying into this 70s punk, DIY. I mean, it's also the Misfits.
That's the kind of logo they appropriated. Yeah, this guy. But it's also like the Grim Reaper too. So the ending. He's got the death.
Death is upon us.
Thing going on.
And a little bit about the way that this has been constructed physically. You've used overhead projector, which is also sort of an outdated mode of technology, with a pretty new idea, which is taking images and then reconstructing them with characters through a computer program. But then the way you've chosen to actually put that on the wall beyond the use of the projector is by filling in all the characters by hand.
Right.
So you've kind of made a couple reversals of technology / handmade.
That was kind of maybe one thing that might have kicked off this whole line of thinking was some stories we heard about educational systems for elementary schools eliminating cursive writing from their programs, like not teaching that anymore. And wondering where these kinds of like things are going to add up in the end. So like the next thing is like taking out drawing classes because people don't draw anymore, or where does it end? It's like,
yeah, who's to say what's applicable, right? Like if they decide to get rid of one thing, like cursive, where does that stop? So there's just questions, really. There's a lot of questions, I think.
Yeah. And that's where the handwriting of the text came in. It was like a conceptual tie-around to the vanishing handwriting.
Cool.
Intensive labor.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Chris.
Thanks.
Congratulations, Steve.
Thank you.